This is Healing with Haley, episode 47, From Masculine Drive to Feminine Flow, How Lola Manekin Built Tribe Baltimore. Welcome to Healing with Haley. I'm your coach, Haley Kirk. On this podcast, we dive into ways to heal, embrace, and truly love our lives. Here's my belief. So much of our suffering comes from what we believe. I'm here to help you understand your mind and question those thoughts to start your healing journey. Ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome, podcasters. I have Lola here, who is one of the co-owners of Tribe. Welcome, Lola.
Hi, Haley. Thank you. So good to be here.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited for this podcast because when I first met you, you just have this light. Like you're just this you have this aura about you that's like sunshine. Literally, like that's how I feel when I see you. I'm like, I need to get to know this woman.
Mm, it's so funny because you know how they say that we're always, we're only able to see in others the things that we have in ourselves. Because that's exactly how I felt in your presence.
Oh my God. Oh, I love this.
I'm like, Sunny, is she ever not smiling? Sunny was like, no, she's always smiling.
Yeah, sometimes it's so funny. Sometimes one time at the gym, this guy was like, "Do you do drugs?" I'm like, "No, bro, I don't. It's just all like all happy vibes in here."
Oh, good.
But okay. So I think it'd be so cool. I have a lot of listeners who are like aspiring entrepreneurs, business, startup people. Oh, hi, kitty.
I
So
wasn't expecting
cute.
that.
I love it. No, it's a thing. Like cats just love like the computer. It's so funny. But yeah, so like give us a little bit of background, like what inspired Tribe? How did you get like co-owners and operators? Like give us all the details, like origin story.
Yeah. So I'll go back a little bit before tribe because tribe is a consequence of other things.
Cool.
Um, about, let me see, 14 years ago, I took this training on this movement, somatic dance, which it has now evolved into my body alchemista classes. But I fell in love as a Brazilian woman, always loved dancing and being in the body. I came back from the training. And I said, I'm going to teach this thing in Baltimore. Nobody knows what it is. And I'm just going to introduce to everybody. And I was new to Baltimore too. I had literally just moved to Baltimore. So I, rented a place. And a very long story short, I grew a community, a huge community of people in love with this practice. And to the point that every place that I taught, we outgrew every room, every space, so that's when in 2016 I opened in Remington Movement Lab. I don't know if you heard about Movement Lab.
Yeah, yeah. Sunny told me
Um,
about it.
yeah, so Movement Lab was my first creation, my first baby. And
I love it. I love that you call it a baby. I love that. Oh,
they
keep
are,
going.
they are.
Yes.
You have a baby,
Yes.
it needs like the part, the love, the nourishment as much as a baby does.
Yes.
So yeah, so during the pandemic, I was actually taking a year sabbatical with my family and I was living in Brazil and we didn't know the pandemic was going to happen, so we moved there
Yeah.
a little in January and then in March it hit.
Wow.
And then I ended up selling Movement Lab to a woman and swore to God that I was never going to open a new space again. And then fast forward last year around August. The whole last year, the community kind of started to reach out to me, being like, "Hey, Lola, I really miss what we had," and um, there was just this realization how everybody was a little bit homeless and homesick, from having this place that felt like home, that really what Movement Lab was. Um, so I was actually, it was August, I was in Spain with my husband and he looked at me and he said, "Babe, you can't hide anymore. It's time for you to open a new space."
Wow.
What you bring is important. Like, go gather your community and go do what you do best.
Well,
So I had this, this agreement with the universe that, if this place was meant to happen, that I wanted to birth this time from like my feminine energy, because I have a very strong, badass warrior,
yes, you
masculine energy.
do.
And I was like, I wanted things to fall into my lap,
Yeah.
and they started the community. First I gathered a group of directors, that were gonna work with me, and then we started together the group of teachers, and then the building came through. It was just this very natural thing that started to happen, and
Wow.
we're almost 9 months in now.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
Oh man, there is so much to piece out in that. I find this so common with entrepreneurs is that it's not linear, right? It's not like, oh yeah, we did this one thing and it just like succeeded on the first try. It's like a lot of different paths, but in the same direction almost. Is that kind of what you experience as well?
Yeah, for sure. Beginning with working with other humans, that's the biggest lesson. And Gary, for example, I have worked with him before. He's like and Sunny, they're like
Yeah.
brother and sister to me. But the rest of the team I haven't. He was like, like a shooting in the dark and hopefully hoping that it would work. So some did, some we lost some people along the way. So it's definitely this non-linear dance of like contraction and expansion. And as a leader of this community, to really have to keep looking inside of me all the time and questioning my leadership, and sometimes too much to the point that I beat myself up. And so
Yeah,
it's
totally.
yeah, it's far from linear, far from linear.
Wow. I love that you said that you stepped in when you created Tribe after what your husband had said where you were like you can't hide anymore. I love that you said you stepped into the feminine. And one of my favorite entrepreneurs is Sarah Blakely, who created Spanx. So she's like the first multi-billionaire woman. Like she's so inspiring. And she was told over and over again by her colleagues, which were all men, you need to like change the way you're doing things and you need to be more masculine. And she was like, no, I'm not. Like I like the way I run my business in my feminine energy. And she loves her masculine parts too. But so talk to me about like I sometimes we hear this word like femininity and we're kind of like, what does it mean? But when you say step into my feminine, can you tell us what exactly that meant? It sounded like you were kind of in receiving mode. Is that kind of
Yes.
tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I'll share a little other background. We grew up in Brazil, very simply. And I'm a Capricorn. I am a
Oh,
sun and
I
a
love.
moon in Capricorn.
Wow.
So yeah. And so I have been like an interpreter since I was little. I would make these like little bracelets and it would knock in the neighborhoods. I've always had, but when I talk about that more masculine energy is like a go-getter, a total go-getter.
Mm, mm,
Like almost
yeah.
sometimes feeling like I'm forcing things into creation that needs to
Mm,
happen now, and because
yeah.
many times that force that I bring it does birth worlds, that but there's a consequence to that. There's like I want to say, for me, it gets to a point that it's exhausting.
Mm,
That I lose the fun and the why to begin with. And
mm.
then I begin to like just, what is the word? Um, Res
Oh, resent?
yes, thank you. Like
Yeah, yeah.
everything and everybody and myself, and to be honest, the the beginning of Tribe, it was more of this allowing. Um, then. then once we actually open our doors, all of that went out the window. I was like, in go mode warrior, uh, you know, probably many times, a bitch to everybody. I have this because my vision is so clear, Haley, of how I want things to
Yeah.
be and to
Yeah.
exist, that anything outside the vision, it's almost like sometimes I can be a little bit unforgiving, more like
Yeah.
linear and militant. And
Yeah.
so it's like I'm once again, now that we're 9 months in and that the team, the people that needed to stay, stayed, the people that needed to go went. And now there is this way of like, it's not that there's not doing, there is doing, but now I actually attracted these humans who love what they do and are really good at what they do, and I can
Yeah.
just stay in the like I always had more like ego's eye to stay above everything, maintaining the vision, the why to begin with, the where we want to go. When I'm in my feminine, I stay more in that space of like big and all is possible, like the womb,
Yeah.
right? This like
Oh,
infinite womb.
yum.
And
Yes.
then when I'm in my masculine, I'm like working on the minutia, like, there's a dust ball here. Who didn't pick up this dust ball? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. So it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason for the success of Tribe is one, stepping into your feminine and receiving and being very clear with your vision. And then step two, having the right people. Is that right?
Yeah, the right people to take the actions, to take more of that role of the doing,
Yeah.
of the, because it needs to have, that's why the feminine and the masculine is always a balance, right? They were telling this woman, right, that you need to be a little bit more masculine. More is more like the opposite, you need to be a little
Yeah.
bit more feminine. But it's that balance of like we allow, and then in within that allowing, it's kind of like our intuition. We receive the next, like what I like to call the next breadcrumb. And then that
Mhm.
next breadcrumb is an action. So here comes that more, the warrior, the masculine that says, all right, action time. And then you pull back again. Once that first breadcrumb is listened to, now you pull back, you wait to receive again. It's very much like our intuition works. You
Yeah.
receive and then you bring and you manifest. You receive and you manifest.
That's so beautiful. So I'm like visualizing what you're saying. That's so hard to do because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're just like do, make happen, make happen, make happen. And it's hard to be in that receiving mode. How do you stay in that mode?
There is a few things. I'm actually right now working with a coach for artists,
Ooh.
and he has been really asking me, because I thought he was going to coach me on how to be a good leader for my team. And what he's really keep asking me is like, what is the perfect life for you? How do you want it to be?
Oh,
Like
I love it.
tribe in its max success. What are you doing? Where are you? And as I answer these questions, there's like little things, like for example, I don't want to work there every day. Like
Yeah.
for me to be able to receive and allow, I actually need to be home. So I
Yeah.
work from home and I'm not up everybody else's ass talking about the dust ball that hasn't been picked up.
Yeah.
And that gives them, and empowers them when I'm not there.
Yeah.
It empowers them to step up into their leadership, which is
Mm,
amazing, which is my goal to begin with,
right.
that those guys just take on the world, and I'll just, get to enjoy the fruits of that.
Yeah.
Um, and so there's little like actions like that, knowing like where I keep asking to myself, like, how do I thrive the most? What's my environment,
I
And
love
then
that question.
yeah, and then as I answer those questions, I get to be clear for myself and also understanding that if it's good for me, even though they may not see in the beginning, but I think they do end up seeing that it's also good for the whole team, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Yeah, that's so wise. I feel like it's, isn't it kind of odd that it's hard to be honest with yourself? Like it's really hard because sometimes we're operating in this like autopilot mode, right? And then we are we take on these identities that don't even really serve us, right? Like I think it's so interesting how much we want to be like, yeah, like where do I thrive? Does this serve me? Do these beliefs even match the ultimate goal that I have? I think those are asking good questions is such a valuable tool. So in the initial phase, whether it was like movement lab or tribe, were there any mistakes you made that you were like, "Ugh, like I wish I didn't do that starting my business?"
I mean, yes, a ton,
Hmm.
and I for sure continue to do. Um, I think I'll tell you one thing that it's a gift of mine, but it can also serve as a major weapon. Um, when I have a vision and I get really excited about this vision, I can seduce anybody to like, let's just take a quick trip to hell and back. Like if it comes from that place of me that truly believes that that trip should be made, I can get anybody to sign up and do this with me.
I agree with you. Yes. I see it. Yes.
And 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 I leave the the agreements like I stay in the bigger dream and the bigger vision, and then I miss the details of what does it look like when you say
Mm,
that I am, what is my role here? What is my, like I suck everybody in and then I start almost, I want to use the word putting them back in their places, but it's
mhm.
not it. But I don't know if you
Yeah.
understand. Like then I take it away. I give this vision and this thing as if I'm promising the world, and
Yeah.
then when it's time to like grind and be like, well, you do have, like your ownership of tribe is not literal because the lease is in my name. I'm the one covering all the bills every day. Like I'm the owner of it,
Yeah.
and that conversation could have been lost of like what does it mean, but what does it
Mm,
mean that because
yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but I
It's
think
like
that's
the communication maybe is like it's overzealous. Like it's like a big idea, but then the details of the idea aren't ironed out. Is it kind of
exactly,
like okay?
exactly. and
Yeah.
and when we do iron out, it feels like, right, it feels like, at least for me, that I did take things away, that I promised
Mhm.
you the world and now I'm giving you one country, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
I have experienced that many, many times, that I let the emotional part. It's really what that is, the emotional rules, and then my rational kind of like is forgotten. And then when the rational of everybody comes back in, then there's, hearts that have been broken, there's hurt, there's
Yeah.
grief, um, so I think that of within all the mistakes that I have done, and
Mhm.
they have been such beautiful teachers for me. They could all fall within that umbrella in different ways. It all
Yeah.
looked like, a version of that, basically.
Yeah, I feel like that comes with being like as entrepreneurs, right? We're such future thinkers, and truly everything is possible there, right? It's like getting there. So it's like those minute details. It's like, well, we can't do it just yet, but I understand how you operate because it's like the big idea, everything is possible at least, but like yeah, the details. And there's this really cool book. It's called E-Myth. And there's three types of people. There's the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician.
Mm.
And the manager is so important for people like us because we're like ideas, 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 ideas. And then the manager goes in and is like, nope, 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 that won't work. That not feasible at this stage, right? And there's another book called Rocket Fuel where he talks about it's an integrator and a visionary.
Hmm.
Different, same concept but different terms. And the visionary is the one of the amazing examples he gives is Walt Disney. And Walt Disney went bankrupt like three times because he didn't know how to manage a business. And then his brother is an integrator, the manager. And
Hmm.
he's like, let me do the, managerial financial stuff and you keep creating and staying in your creation. So it's like that question you were asking, like, where do I thrive? It's like, let's just stick with like my strengths and then like hire people that have my weaknesses that are their strengths. So yeah, I see it. I think it's just like you're saying, like it's like a blessing. It's like it's a strength that you have. Like we need visionaries. It's so important. So I have another question for you. What is like for someone who's trying to be owning a business or starting, some community or some kind of movement, what is the biggest piece of advice that has just served you throughout this time?
That it takes a village, that's my biggest lesson. One is that it, to me, it's not even fun to do it alone. If I
Yeah.
haven't had all these people that said, "All right, we're entering this journey with you," but it's really the village that everybody that comes together and exactly what you're saying, within those three roles, there are all the other little ones, like what are you good at? What are you good at? What are you good at? And have everybody bring together what they're good at and making space for their zone of expertise to have a place and to be celebrated. To me, that's
Wow.
really, really big. Doesn't matter how big or how little the task is, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. How do you find the right people that are on board with your vision? Like, because you said that they kind of just came, but yeah, like talk a little bit more about how you found them, how they came.
Let me just think. I think I'll stay with Tribe because Movement Lab has been such a long time ago, and
Yeah.
I think Movement Lab was a little bit different than what Tribe is. But there's first of all, Baltimore is really small, as you know,
Yeah.
and everybody knows everybody else. So when people started to hear that I was in the process of possibly, start creating a new place, there's this like, you should know this person, you should know this person, and Gary and Sunny, for example, they have always been a big part of my life. When we actually took that sabbatical to live in Brazil, Gary and Sunny were the one who stayed taking care of Movement Lab.
Wow.
They were, yeah, like I asked if they would move to Baltimore for a year. They lived in our home and it was amazing. I mean,
That's
it did, there was amazing possibility if it wasn't, the pandemic that stopped all of that
yeah,
from really for
taking
them to
off.
explore, yeah, to explore their
Yeah.
potential as, as leaders. And now I feel like they're having this again. So it's that way. Like people will hear the vision and they will come in, but not everybody stays. That's the hardest part.
Hmm.
I had people walking out at Movement Lab, somebody who I thought would never do it, would never not be a part of the vision, and
Yeah,
same thing like early on in Tribe, like people that were really, really important that helped with the foundation, our visions didn't uh, connect anymore and decided to walk away. So
yeah,
I think there's that beautiful natural selection process that the universe itself creates. Like Martha, for example. Have you taken a class with Martha Tribe yet?
not
She's
yet.
okay, she's crazy unbelievable. And she's the Kundalini teacher and she teaches radiant yoga. She's just like wisdom with arms and legs.
Whoa.
And like we've known of each other for years. We did Mama Gina together. Um,
What is Bamangina?
Mama Gina, she's that woman. She wrote that book, Pussy, a Reclamation, which you have to read it.
I'm gonna read it.
So
Yes.
good.
So she's an author.
She has a school called School of Womenly Arts, and she had this. You would
Oh my
love it.
God. I need
Totally,
this now.
totally up your alley. Um, and this podcast is not PG, right?
I haven't been rated yet, so we'll see.
She offered this, it's 3 weekends that we would go up to New York, and it was 500 women in this
Wow.
amphitheater, and just to get it going, the first weekend, the first night, we had like a pussy parade. Everybody took their clothes off. We bejeweled our whole body and went like dancing around the whole thing. It was like
Oh my
wild.
fun.
So Martha did that, so we've known of each other. We were ambassadors for Lululemon at the same time. So many times like life brought us together and we never did anything about it. We known of each other,
Mm.
we respected each other, but there was never this, like this spark.
Yeah.
And and then I remember because she used to teach in that building for 15 years. She was teaching
Oh wow.
Kundalini where Tribe is.
Yeah.
And I remember just sending a message to her saying, "Hey, do you have a minute?" She called me. I'm like, "Are you ready for home?" She's like, it was after the pandemic. There was no studios left here.
Wow.
I feel like studios are just starting to come back alive again.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am all in, you know. And now this woman is in my life. It's such a beautiful way. We collaborate all the time. We do this retreat, day retreats and this special things together, and it just feels like fireworks. And it was like, where have you been
Wow.
my whole life?
Yeah.
So the time of things, is also a way that I believe that this works, that people will
Yeah.
come when they need to go, come when it's time, that there's something that have already been organized and aligned, that it's beyond what my tiny little mind can conceptualize.
Right. Yes. That's so beautiful. Yeah. I have you ever heard the story of like Honda, the guy who invented Honda?
No.
His story's wild. He was destined, like it was his vision to create this high functioning piston for vehicles. And he went through like wars, he went through like huge rejections in Toyota for all these things. And like, it just blows my mind how he just kept staying the course and the right people were just coming along the way. And he eventually, like, he created this motorbike during the wars that was so popular, but he kept staying on the path. And it's just like, it's reminding me of what you're saying. Like, you don't know when, you don't know who, but like, as long as you're just kind of like, taking actions, like you reaching out to her, like making it happen. And that's something so magical about business that I love. It's like it's just so much uncertainty and you just kind of have to like blindly with all the faith you can muster, like, I'm just gonna not quit until it happens. It's like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just this unwavering faith and like you're just going, going, going.
There's this woman here in Baltimore, Maria Broom. She's an elder in the community, but she's like a raw, like a superstar. And
Mm.
when I was in the process of, considering Movement Lab, the, just so you know, like at least in the beginning, the spreadsheets for a yoga movement studio make zero sense. Okay? Like they make zero sense. So and my husband, is all about the spreadsheets because all of his spreadsheets make super sense, as a developer. And I'm thinking like I don't know how to prove to him that this project makes sense because in the paper it just doesn't. It doesn't. And I sat down with Maria, and I told her and I have this dream and it's time and I can see it and it's already happened. And when she brought the Kevin Costner movie, she's like, have you seen that movie? And I don't remember the name, but basically she's like, you build and they will come. You build and they will come.
Ooh, I
You know?
love that. Build
And
and
that
they'll come.
and that has been like this, my motto since that, this idea of like this deep knowing in my heart that everything that I put my heart into is going to succeed. Is going to succeed because it's filled with love, and that's what I believe that's what all of us came to this planet to do, to
Yeah.
find what we love and then put 100% of ourselves in that, and watch that become something, so
Oh,
it's been
I'm so inspired. My heart's like pounding to what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. It this is kind of an interesting idea. I thought was kind of wild. One of my favorite quotes is our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our dark, that most frightens us. And I always mention it on this podcast, but it's really kind of scary to tap into that light because then you can't, like, if you hide, right? You've already been exposed and there's like there's so many aspects about your light and like it's that baby, that you're talking about. It's like it's kind of like opening your heart and opening your chest and like everything that's vulnerable about you, it's like on display. And if it fails, it's like just all this fear of success, even like, oh, so if I succeed, then what if I fail? So it's like it's this whole drama saga of like all the possibilities of it failing, I think is like really, really scary.
I have a story to tell you. I think you're gonna
Tell
like
me, I
it.
love stories.
We had a situation, a couple months ago happening at Tribe that really shook the foundation,
Oh,
and
wow.
the foundation is the most important part of any business, right? And shook the foundation, and I sunk, I'm like at the verge of my own version of what depression probably looks like and feel like in a person.
Yeah, yeah,
And my husband is a very successful businessman, super incredible.
it's amazing.
And I sat down with him and I'm like, I need to give you the scoop of what's going on. So I tell him everything that what's going on and between sobs and tears and bursts of anger and all of it in between, you know. And then Haley, he looks at me and he said, Lola, I think we just have to agree to something. Tribe is a sinking ship. He says that to me.
Wow.
And Haley, in that moment, that mama bear energy? Like you are a mom. You know what it is,
Yeah, you like see red.
I'm like inside my skin, I'm like, how dare you?
Fire breathing out of your mouth.
Like everything that he says after that, just like delete, and it was really beautiful because it was conscious or unconscious. like my fire had been, you know, dimmed to the point that I didn't even know if I had it, right? That's how I would
Mm.
summarize what was happening,
Yeah.
and he says something like that. And this combination of mama bear, I'm like, you're talking about my child. My
Ooh.
children are not sinking ships. And it was like exactly what I needed to hear. He like lit up this fire under my ass, just by saying that. And he was like, it
Wow.
was it was a moment, like in that
Mm.
moment. And I'm also very competitive.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
I love that.
oh, watch me.
Mm-mm.
So
Yes.
so that's when everything around tribe like started to change in this way of like, of Nor, our marketing director, came in, and there's just you know, this energy. Diara, which you've met, became our manager. And like Gary occupied his throne as the king that he is. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is
Oh,
it.
oh,
So
oh man, I love that story. I love that story. I feel like your husband, at two moments in your different businesses, had you, like you said, consciously or unconsciously, like triggered something in you that like that fighter, that like, oh, that's so awesome that he's your husband. Like that's so cool that you have him to be that push that you need. But in a good way, like a good push, like, hey, wake up. This isn't the reality that you want. Or that's so awesome. I love that for you.
it was great.
Wow. Oh, I'm like, I want to like go run a marathon right now. I have like so much like energy from this conversation.
I can see that from you.
So, what skills, I always want to know this. Like what skills have you mentioned it's your ability to rein people in and like draw them into your vision and your picture. But what other skills have served you really well in making Tribe the way it is right now?
I think one is being, an incredible teacher. I have a ton. I have dedicated the last 14 years of my life to this. I have been prior to that, and still, I have a whole background in Chinese medicine, in healing modalities, and natural therapies. And so I have that part of me, because I don't know if you know that, but I have a retreat house up north that I also run. Um, that's more of like where I do my private uh, healing sessions and private retreats. And so I have, spent the majority of my lifetime really mastering this skills of, it just came to my head. What I've mastered is the skills of me, that it's
Mm.
like how, that how can I continue to unlock the most free, liberated, authentic, truthful version of myself.
Mm.
And and I think that when I get to really be that honest all the time, I think that that is a great skill to have, also, as to show up to, the people that I work with, or and just be like, I messed it up. I'm sorry, I'm
Mm.
sorry.
Mm.
And to yeah, like I don't think you can be really wear masks when you're in the presence of somebody who's so raw and authentic and real. So that's when I said about me honing my own skills. It's like that. It's like how can I show up as human as possible, so I give permission for everybody to do the same, and
Mm,
for if there's a mistake, that these mistakes are immediately been taking responsibility for instead of because that's how we operate from truth telling and you know so I think that that's I know I talk about one thing and then the other thing, but I think that there's two things. One is my skills as a mover, as a teacher, um, mo more for movement lab than it is for tribe. At movement lab I could teach every class that we had on the schedule. I could sub for every single class. The aerial class, I knew how to teach it. I could teach the martial arts class. I could teach the dance class. I could teach the yoga class. Like I could teach all of them, you
yeah.
know? And that was very empowering for me to know that, that I never wanted to feel, how do I say that in a way that makes
Meaning, like if there were like deficiencies or like absences in your employees, you could fill those.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was that and always knowing that if anything I could also count on myself.
Ooh, yeah, that like personal accountability.
And because again, like within this work, people will come and go and come and go,
Yeah, yeah,
and to know that there is this business that I wanted to do with other people, there's no doubt,
yeah,
and there's no gaps because if there's a gap, I can fill up those gaps, you know. Now
cool.
with Tribe, I don't have the same level of skills, but I also feel like it's not needed, Like I feel
Yeah,
like Movement Lab needed that for me, and I don't think Tribe needs that anymore,
no.
at all. I love sitting actually. I teach very little there. I teach like 3 or 4 classes total, and
Wow.
um, and yeah, I think my biggest happiness comes from also sitting back and watching, those numbers and everybody
Yeah.
else's classes grow and be like, yeah, go Alex, like
Oh, I
I
love
love
that.
it.
That's so beautiful. I I kind of want to dive in to your expertise and your background. So, Chinese medicine, like for someone who has no idea what that is, what is it? What's your experience with it? Tell me everything. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah, so I grew up with, in this island in Brazil, and I'm gonna get a little bit mystical here, but I have
Yeah.
to own that part of myself as well.
Yes.
It's that island is known in Brazil for being the island of the witches. And
Ooh.
today I understand
What's the
that
name of the island?
Florianopolis,
Florianopolis. Cool.
Florianopolis. And I grew up with, surrounded by, my mom had 5 sisters. So
Wow.
I grew up surrounded by these witches, these witchy women
Yeah.
who, uh, you know, within their limitations as humans, we're always in some sort of ceremony with life and my mom herself was completely outside of the box woman, who challenged many people because she sees beyond the box. She always has, and in our times to see beyond the box is a little bit more acceptable, but 60 something years ago to be a wild woman, you ended up being burned,
Yeah.
before that. So I grew up with that kind of very mystical, like spiritism was the religion that we grew up on, and this idea of the spirits and lives and past lives and all of that. It was just part of my daily conversations,
Cool.
quantum physics, all of that. So when my mom to my mom started at some point what she was preparing to separate from my dad. I knew she needed that for the courage. She started to participating on indigenous shamanic ceremonies, with ayahuasca and peyote and So again, we watch those things as if it was just another day in the office kind of experience.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when it's time for me to go to college, there was so many things that excited me, like journalism. I applied to be a journalist, to be a fashion designer, to be a lawyer, to be work with like international business, and this course called naturologia, which is naturology, and it was a brand new course that had just opened, and I ended up passing for that and international business. And I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to choose. And she said, trust me, you gotta go with naturology. And when you're 17, like, what do you know? You know,
Nothing.
nothing. So I entered this, this world with natural therapies. With that, I was the fifth class to graduate from this program.
Oh,
That
so it's
was
just like a new program.
new program, and it's still
Yeah.
going on. It's amazing, how, even the naturologists of this day have much more opportunities than we did then. Um, so I finished that and I started to study for Chinese medicine and acupuncture in Brazil. But then
Wow.
I moved to the United States. I came here just to do a work experience for 4 months,
Hmm.
and it was time to come back. I called my parents and I said, you know what? I'm staying. I'm not, there's
Yeah.
nothing, I finished college by then. There's nothing waiting for me. And then met my husband, and his his dad was in the board of director of this acupuncture school here in Baltimore.
Oh, no way.
And and his mom had gone through all the courses. So basically his mom is also, this, powerful witchy woman.
That's so
And
cool.
I know, and she's French. Um, so I got my master's degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, um, and treated, basically with acupuncture for uh, 12 years. And I stopped when we moved to Brazil. But there was a part of me that was already not feeling as connected to the needles. I love doing shadow work with people. Like, I want to see people like dive into the dark night of the soul and come on the other side like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And
Ooh.
and that's not what acupuncture, at least in my experience. And today I understand that the acupuncturists were meeting me where I was, because they're just an extension of my hands, and
Yeah.
my
So wait, tell us really quick what shadow work is. So it sounds like, yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically, I'll tell you my simple version of it, that we all have, this part of ourselves that we love and that everybody loves. And then we have this other part of ourselves that we don't love, that we tend to hide, that we tend to wear masks to cover, the part of us that is greedy, needy, angry, fearful, that have betrayed, that have cheated, that have, like whatever. And uh, and one of the things that I love that Mama Gina used to say is like, we have to play the 88 keys of our piano. So when we recognize and begin to experience this range of emotions and this all these versions of ourselves that exist, and embrace them, and understanding even more that I can only recognize the light side of me, the bright side of me, the blessed part of me, when I can actually recognize and honor, the other side of that, because they're the two sides of the same coin. Like, I can only know, like, let's say, I can only know a deeper aspect of love because I have experienced the opposite of that.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, so when I moved back to Brazil during the pandemic, I just went all in into this whole like breath work, energy work, just realizing, bioenergetic medicine, um, realized that I didn't need my needles anymore because my hands really had all the power that I needed. And this is actually very new information that I have been starting to feel more comfortable share. Like, I have done plenty of also myself medicine journeys with ayahuasca and, magic mushrooms and you name it. And for the past 5 years, every time that I journey, Jesus comes,
Wow.
and I keep getting this message of like part of this energy that I get to circulate through everything that I do, through my hands, through my dance. It's this energy, this like Christic energy.
Yeah.
And it took I felt this truth for a long time, but it felt really embarrassed to say out loud to be like, who do you think you are for
Right.
that? You know?
Right.
So yeah, so I came back. I received this whole download when I was in Brazil of a session that I have named now Align Energetics. And it's like a people are with me for 3 hours, and 2 of the 3 hours they're doing the work on the table, the breath work. Then I work in their specific parts of their bodies and their abdomen to release any emotional trauma. I work on their backs with a Chinese cup to release, any weight, any armor. It's like I work on the feminine, I work in the masculine. I work with bioenergetic medicine to kind of like reset the parasympathetic nervous system to come online. So it's this incredible, medicine that I now get to offer, that to me it's the closest thing to a journey with medicine, but without the medicine, that you are tapping into your own medicine,
Wow.
your body, your breath, your energy.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, so that's part of also what I do.
that's amazing. So you said bioenergetic medicine. What is that? What is that?
I learned these techniques in Brazil, but actually, this my teacher there, Fernando, he learned here in the United States. The guy who created is no longer alive, mortar, but his kids teach it. Bioenergetic synchronization technique. They have different. But basically, the summary of it is that it uses kinesiology, which is the body itself, to respond to what the places are you stuck in terms of emotions.
Mm,
There's a whole chart that we learn, and then you go through the chart, with the body, and there's something that the body says. It's like fear or whatever.
yeah.
Um, and then once we pick up the thing that we were working on, which they come up in layers, then there's a specific treatment that we do with the hands in specific points of the body that helps repolarize, the body, because we are made of protons and electrons and neutrons. And usually when we are in some sort of uh, disharmony, it's because that those poles are, it's everywhere. It's a freaking mess. So
Yeah.
when we put the hands back into the specific points around the head, around the clavicle and the shoulder blades and the belly button, we are repolarizing, negative go to the negative side, positive goes to the positive side. And then what it does is that it removes interference, whether that interference is an emotional block, a mental block. And when it removes interference, it gives the body permission to do what it knows how to do on its own, which is to heal itself.
Wow.
Like our bodies is a perfect self-healing mechanism,
It is.
and
Yeah, it's
what gets
amazing.
in the way of that is, what we feel that
Yeah.
we don't express, which is part of the shadow work, right? It's those emotions that I explain to my clients, the best way that I find is, imagine this hollow tube, kind of like when you go to a bank,
Uh-huh.
drive-through bank, right?
Yeah. Yes.
There's this like hollow tube that it's your center channel where your chakras are. Each,
Uh-huh.
each uh, people call it differently, but we all agree that we have a center channel and that they carry these energy centers within it.
Uh-huh.
And I always like to visualize that it's this hollow tube, that it's open in the bottom and it's
Hmm.
open on the top. And it receives this information from the earth, right? All the wisdom of Pachamama, like that
Hmm.
primal, like, in the body kind of medicine. And then
Mm.
from the top, it receives more of the subtle ethereal, information from the heavens. And then we
Mm.
get the, through this channel, we receive this information, and from the heart, we pour it out there, and that's how we manifest who we are in our gifts into the world, right?
Cool.
Now, when we have lived a life that it's filled with traumas or, belief systems or emotions that were left unfelt, it's like
Hmm.
they get stuck in the walls of this center channel, right? And now this
Mm.
thing that it's supposed to be like an open pipe to just flow energy up and down and out,
Yeah,
now it's hard. It's kind of like a bathtub when you need, when it's stuck with
a clogged
hair.
bathtub. Yes, I have
Exactly.
one right now.
So that's how I see at the end of the day, all this work that I do is to, what do we need to do to clear that channel, to recognize what's there, right? Not to push it away and pretend it's not there. How do we
Mm.
recognize everything that made its way there? And then once we recognize, we clear, and now we're ready to go back to the flow and receive. So the bioenergetic medicine to me, and also honestly to me, I think that all these medicines, they do that in
Yeah.
different way. Breath work. Have you done a breath work journey?
No.
You have to come on a Monday night.
Oh my,
Um,
love to.
it's magic,
Wow.
like if you use like your own breath has the capacity to, open your pineal gland and give you visions, and it's incredible, how
So
the amount of
cool.
medicine that we carry within ourselves.
Wow. Ugh, I could just talk to you for hours. This
I
is
know, I can believe how
so
quick this
interesting.
hour went
I
through.
know. That is wild. So, I mean, I think a lot of people probably don't even know what tribe is, but I'm gonna attempt to try it because I feel like when my experience when I went to tribe, it was like a place of healing. That's what it felt like for me. Like it was like, but in it was in multi modalities. Like it wasn't like, and that's what drew me to it because I feel like there's so many ways to heal. There's so many, and it's kind of interesting how some attract us more than others. I think is also like super interesting. But I also feel like the people there are on the same wavelength as me. Like they're just very like warm, open-minded, loving, vulnerable. Like it's this beautiful place that I don't want to leave. Like I just like, can I just stay here? Like it feels so good there. But I guess in your own words, how would you explain what tribe is and like the ultimate vision and goals of tribe?
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying, how these people felt like you, and the word that just keeps coming to me is like embodiment,
Mm,
like um, the the humans that are a tribe, they are like highly spiritual humans, but they live their spiritualities in their bodies. And that's
mm, mm.
really, and so do you. Like the
Yeah.
first time that I saw you walking in, I mean, you own every part of your body, those thighs and the hips, and it's like, like to me, Haley, that is true spirituality. You
Wow.
know, it's
Yeah.
it's like we are given this one chance, this one lifetime to be in this vessel that we're in, and we occupy, most people, barely nothing of it. Everybody spends most of their time from their neck up, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Oh,
So
I'm
when
getting
I
chills. Yeah.
so so one of my favorite quotes, which I don't know who said it, but it says enlightenment through embodiment, you know.
Oh, that's so good.
So
Yeah.
that to me, it's the bigger vision of tribe. It's what I
Mm,
want people to leave tribe every day after every class, to feel how connected they are through the to the divine, to the world, to
mm,
life itself. But because they were here, they were in this vessel, feeling and moving and sweating, and
mm,
like
mhm, mm.
that is like to me is bliss, you know?
Yeah. Yes. 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 It's so wild to me how much through my own dance journey I have felt the like I feel so much femininity and like because I'm in like creation, I'm in artistry, playfulness, like it feels free. That's what I like when I'm dancing and I'm matching body movement with music. It's like freedom. It really feels like that. It feels like I'm a kid again because I can just kind of play and see like what parts of my body I can move in these different ways. Like it feels so fun and free is that is the word and like and I feel like that's enlightenment, right? Like enlightenment is what's that higher self that like frees us up and yeah, you can't get there without moving the beautiful body. Like that's so wild to me. I love that. And it's so interesting. Do you know about Joe Dispenza? You heard of him? He
Yeah.
talks about that. The mind and body are just not separable. They're not. They're so connected.
Hmm.
And I love that. I feel like I've had a lot of breakthroughs in my own life through just movement in general. And it's like at the gym or in the dance studio or wherever I'm at, if I'm moving my body, it's weird how I've had the inverse where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that until I like moved my body in such a
Hmm.
way. It's oh
Yeah, the body is the only part of ourselves really that is in the present moment, right? And if
yeah,
and if we
wow.
learn how to like respond, like when you're moving the body, responding to the what we'd say in a, in sacred intimacy, one of my teachers say this a lot, like it's the truth of the moment, how can I express the truth of this moment, whatever that is, over and over and over again. Like the body's doing that is in the present moment, hopefully reflecting the present moment. Whether the present moment feels joyful and blissful and ecstatic, or whether it doesn't, whether you're angry and afraid and depressed, like you just, as long as it keeps moving, right? Which we use tribe as the five elements of Chinese medicine, because of my background on Chinese medicine, but because it's really that connection that we have with the five elements and the cycles of life, to
Mm,
understand that we are cyclical beings, that we weren't meant to be in joy all the time,
yeah,
that we're meant to be,
yes,
right? Like
no,
just like the
no,
seasons, like nature's
yeah,
showing that right now. It's time to go
right.
inside and stay quiet, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that so, so much. A lot of times I feel like, yeah, anytime in conversations with my friends or colleagues, whoever, and they're like, I just want to be happy. And I'm like, oh, like, really? Because think about it, like, I think it would be fun for us to be in peace, actually. I think that is the goal, the ultimate goal, because if I was just truly to be happy, that'd be so boring, right? Like, I wouldn't know anything else because I'm just happy all the time. Like, ugh, that sounds gross. I don't like, and I feel like that's just conditioning, right? Like, I just want to be happy. All the Disney movies or, all the social media stuff. Like, I just want to be happy. But when you say that, yes, like, I love all the aspects of life. Yeah, like the seasons and the winters and all the varieties of emotions. Earlier, when you said playing every key on your piano, oof, that struck a chord with me because I definitely can see in my own life. I'm neglecting some of the darker tones on the piano.
Mm. And I was thinking of one of your videos, like how just the expression of that. Imagine if your dance was all like smile and happy. Like there's that, what is it called? Is it dominatrix? Did I say it?
Yeah, yeah,
And then there's that,
yeah.
like there is that dark, and then there's that one hair move, and then there's, like we're watching it being like, what's next? What's next? But
Yeah.
because it keeps changing.
Yeah, yeah. Last question for you. I have a million questions, but I know we got to end this. But how much of music, how much of music in your experience with healing and tribe and your businesses, and how much of music impacts the body? I found it to be so vital, honestly. It it moves my body in a way. So
Mhm,
it's like
mhm.
music is such a powerful tool to move my body, and in different ways it almost causes like inspiration for certain movement. So is that something that you know or
Oh my God. Oh
experience?
my God. Yeah, I'm like,
Oh, good.
you know, I'll give credit to my dad who, when we were little, we would watch like DVDs, of like old people like Eric Clapton, Burt Bacharach, Hall and Oates. And he would like there was like the sound system that we had was so we could hear the sound under the sound under the sound.
Ooh,
Like
cool. Yeah, yeah.
a little bit more in the future, because I did share with you. We were, when as we continue to evolve as a family. And he taught me that, he taught me
Mm.
to always listen to the sound that it's under the sound that is under the sound, you know?
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So to me, like that's why like when I'm teaching a choreography and I mess it up and I know I mess it up, like my students 100% of the times like, Lola, do you understand how we don't hear music the way you hear music? Like I know because that ring, I didn't pick up on that. Um
Yeah.
but I totally agree with you. Like my breath work session, it's called Breath and Beats because the music leads the
Hmm.
breath,
Oh my God. Is that the
Yeah.
class you teach on Monday nights?
Yeah.
I have to be there. I have to make that happen sometime.
And I got my yoga teacher training, and I started to teach this. I call rhythm and flow. I used to call a vinyasa dance, which is a yoga flow to the music. The music is not the
Mm.
background. The music is the leader of the asana to the next asana to the next asana.
Ooh,
So
cool.
I think that I don't know life without music, Haley. I don't.
Yeah, it's wild. It's really wild, and I'm picking up on it with my son. Like I watch him, how animated and emotional he'll get with like songs. And I'm just like, it seems like it's not, I didn't teach him that. You know what I mean? Like it seems just inherent in him that he is something in him is just like, this moves me. This, I don't know what about it, but I just, and he'll start doing his organic, cute little, like he does this little horse gallop. It's so cute. And he like sways his hair back and forth. And it's just so beautiful to watch. And I'm just like, there's something about music that really heals and inspires the body to move in all kinds of ways. And have you ever seen one of those plates? It's like a metal plate and they put like sand or some kind
Mhm,
of material.
mhm.
And then they'll like use a violin bow or some kind of a string material. And depending on the vibration, it will make these patterns. And I'm just like, there's something to it. So when you teach this breath work through beats, is there like hertz of frequencies? Are you familiar with any of that?
Yeah, I'm familiar, but it's not. It's basically like, the breath work that I do most of the time is the in and out. It's called shamanic breath.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Uh-huh.
And I curate a playlist that takes you on a climbing of the mountain with the speed of that. There is a pause in between, but the different beats of the music is what leads the beat of the breath. So it's more in that way than than like sound healing.
Mm.
Which I have been like this past Sunday. I did this event with my friend David, at Tribe. It's called Sacred Pause, and we did acupuncture, and me and my friend Stephanie put needles in everybody, and then Dave just plays sounds for like an hour. Haley, everybody left that room like floating. You know, they say that this
Wow.
sound is the medicine of the future. We also have a tribe that's sound bed, the vibroacoustic bed. I don't know if you know about it, but we can talk about it
No.
later.
Ooh.
It's like there's, the frequency in the way that the sounds speak directly to the cells and
Oh,
bypasses it bypasses our rational mind, and it's,
yeah.
you know, it's
I I love that. That is so interesting to me. I think it's I feel like we're just barely like as a society and like world just like barely tapping into this like thing that's like mind blowing.
remember when you did the cold plunge and I threw the
Yes.
drum? Imagine if you didn't have the drum for that.
Oh,
You're like sitting in that water freezing, like,
yeah.
and now I come in and like, don't. Now you're like, oh, I got this.
You know what else I thought was so cool about that fire and ice session? Like, so we were in the sauna, and when you poured I don't know what the oils or the medicine was, but it was so intense for me. It was so intense, and I was like, oh. And then I look around, I'm like, okay, everyone else is fine. I'm just freaking out in my head, so I'm gonna calm down, hey, like you're good. And then you said something so inspiring. You were like, no one can take away this fire in you. And I was like crying a little bit. I was like, no one can take it away. And so I went into that ice bath and I was like, no one can take away my fire. And I was like, I'm gonna like breathe this fire in this ice bath and like I'm gonna heat my body. It was so wild. And the drums were like reiterating how much fire I could generate in my own body. It felt so good. I loved it. I loved it. It was so awesome.
Good, good, good. I'm so happy you came.
Oh, Lola, I'm gonna let you go because I could talk to you for like a million hours. But so how can people find Tribe? What are the specials or like how can people find you? What's the website? All the goods.
Yeah, website is tribebaltimore.com. We are coming up next week or at the end of December with a end of the year kind of promotion where people can sign up for a membership in the first month, within the 3-month contract, and the first month is 50% off.
Nice.
But we have your first classes for free. You have a month introduction for $75. You can try,
Yeah.
as many classes as you want.
And there's
And
tons of classes. It's like
tons.
morning to night, weekends, like it's for everyone's schedule. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. And it really is from martial arts to dance to yoga to hammocks to, all of it. And then for me, the work that I do personally is lolamanekin.com. That's my personal website.
Awesome. Ooh, Lola, this was such a treat. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to hear the
I
replay.
know. Thank you. I really appreciate your invitation. I felt so honored, and tonight felt perfect, actually.
I agree. I agree.
I
I'm glad we did it tonight.
know, me too.
Thank you for tuning in to Healing with Haley. If you enjoyed this episode, I think you'll love my new 6-week coaching program. It's designed to help women embrace and love their bodies just as they are. Together, we'll explore your thoughts, meet them with compassion, and start releasing the ones that hold you back. Ready to start your journey to self-love? Join me and let's make this change together. Click the link in the podcast description below.